Hello all, in this particular tutorial we will learn how to install IBM DB2 12.1 client on RHEL 9.4. You will ask me, why do we need client? Client allows you to connect to a DB2 database which is hosted on a remote server. Let's say an application wants to connect to the DB2 database, or end users wants to connect to the database, or application developers wants to connect to the database. The only way of connecting to the database is via the DB2 client. So this particular tutorial is to install the client so that we can access the DB2 database which is hosted on a remote machine. Now let's see the steps in detail. So first we will download the DB2 data server client from the IBM website, install the DB2 data server client using DB2 install, create the client install using DB2 iCreate, catalog the node using catalog TCP IP node command, catalog the database using catalog database command, connect to the database using connect to command. Now let me repeat the step. Download the software, install the software, create the instance, catalog the node, catalog the database, connect to the database. Let's see the steps in detail. First, to install the software, we need to download the software from IBM website. You need IBM ID. If you don't have one, create one. Once the software has been downloaded, unzip the software. Once the software has been unzipped, you will find an utility called DB2 prerequisite check. This particular utility allows you to check the prerequisites, whether all the packages, everything is matching on the operating system where you are installing this particular client software. If some of the packages are missing, it will report and then you can take the action based on that missing packages. Once the prerequisite check is completed, then you can use the DB2 install command to install the DB2 client software. Once the software has been installed, you can create the client instance. To create the client instance, you need an instance owner user account. This is an operating system user account which will become the instance owner or the client name, client instance name. So you need an user ID or user account on that particular operating system. That particular user account you will use while creating the instance using DB2 iCreate. You have to give that instance user name and that becomes the instance user or instance owner or instance name. Once, and here I'm using the DBC. In my lab, I'm using the instance owner as DBC. In your case, you can use DB2 client or whatever name you want to give. Then we can switch to that particular instance using su minus DBC, switch user minus DBC. So when you connect to that particular user, automatically you are connected to that instance. Once you have connected to that instance, you are now ready to catalog the node and catalog the database. To catalog the node, you will use catalog TCP IP node command. To catalog the database, you will use catalog database command. Once the node and database has been cataloged, refresh the cache using terminate command, and finally use the connect to statement to connect to the database. Now, let's see the steps in detail. So to install the client, this is the client that I'll be installing. So this is the zip package. So untar that particular package, and once you untar that particular package, you will find a subdirectory called client. In that particular subdirectory, you will find this DB2 prerequisite check. As I mentioned, this particular package, this particular utility will allow you to find out if the system is suitable for the installation. Does it have all the packages, etc., etc. Once the prerequisite check is completed, you can proceed with the DB2 install command. Prerequisite check will give you the missing packages and you can take the action based on those missing packages, and then followed by DB2 install. Once the installation is completed, go ahead and create the DB2 instance. This is a client instance. So here, this is the default directory where the DB2 will get installed. Again, during the installation, you have the choice of changing this particular directory. It is not mandatory that you have to install the DB2 database software in this directory only. You can choose any other directory. Now, under that, wherever you install that particular software, under that particular directory, you will find any subdirectory called instance, and under that subdirectory, you will find another utility called DB2 iCreate, and DB2 iCreate will be used to create the client instance. Here, DBC is the client instance name, and because we are specifying the type as client, this becomes the DB2 iCreate minus as client DBC. So this becomes the client instance. Once the instance has been created, catalog the node. To catalog the node, you will use DB2 catalog TCP IP node name this can be of your choice. Remote IP address host name. This can be the IP address of the server where the database is running, or the host name of the server where the database is running, and port number of that DB2 instance. So let's give us an example. DB2 catalog TCP IP node RHEL 9, whatever of your choice. Remote DB1, so the database is running on DB1, and the port where the database is running is 25010. So once the node has been cataloged, you can catalog the database. So to catalog the database, you will say DB2 catalog database, name of the database as alias. So this is optional. And at node, this is the node that you cataloged here. So if you see the example, DB2 catalog database, the name of the database at node this. Now, as alias, why this is, although it is optional, it is a good practice. Let's say you have a database called same database name in production environment and in a development environment. Now, if you catalog the database first time with the same name, then it will choose that alias as the same as your name of your database. Now, when you want to catalog the development database, then it will conflict. So what you need to do, when you catalog the database, you have to give the alias. So you know that this is a prod database, this is a dev database. So alias is, although optional, it makes your life simpler. So now once the catalog has been completed, you can connect to the database. So connect to alias. Remember, when we connect, we should not be using the name of the database. We'll be using the alias name. Connect to alias user, the user ID which wants to connect to the database using password. So let's say if you want to connect to the database called first123, you'll say connect to first123 username using password. And using the DB2 get connection state, we can verify if the connection is successful or not. Now that we have seen the everything, let us begin the labs. But before we begin the labs, let me explain the steps, high level steps once again. Download the software, install the software, create the instance, catalog the node, catalog the database, connect to the database. Let's begin. Now, first thing that we need to do is we need to download the software. So let me actually go to the IBM website here. So I'm here searching for, I'm searching for download DB2 12.1 client. So when you open this particular link, you will get this particular option. So here I can see that we got this IBM data server client. Open that particular link and you will come across this particular here, and you can see here this is the latest 12.1 2025 stream, and here 12. You can choose based on your requirement. You can choose whatever packages you need, and here here this is 12.1. If you want to get the latest one, you have to go to the fix central, and that one will give you the 12.1. So if you now you can click on this and it will start downloading that particular package. You can see 12.1 is getting downloaded. Again, as I mentioned, if you want the latest one, 12.1, you can go to the fix central where I got that particular link. Here, from here, I clicked on that particular link, and here you can choose the DB2 12.1. So where is that 12.1? And we wanted the Linux one. So if we keep scrolling down somewhere, we should get AIX, Linux power, AIX, too many. 390, Linux 390, power PC, Linux 390. I think there are more. I think it should be the somewhere. I don't want to waste your time. But anyway, so this is how you download the package. Now, once the package has been downloaded, let's go ahead. Actually, I have already downloaded. I'm going to close this and cancel the download. And what we need before we actually connect, we need, if you remember, catalog TCP IP node and catalog database, there are things that we need to know. So when we catalog the node, what we need is a node name and the IP address, host name, and a port number. So here you can see we need the node name is your choice, IP address or host name, and the port number of where the DB2 database is running, and we also need the name of the database, how to get that information. So we need the host name, we need the port, instance port, and we need the database name. Let's get that information. So what we are going to do, we are going to connect to the database server, and let's run the command host name, which will give us the name of, again we can use the IP address also. So we are going to use the host name, and here you can either use the full or you can use, I am going to just use the DB1. So let me capture that. So the host name where our database is running is DB1. So I captured that. Now we need the port. So to get the port, what we need to do is we need to run this particular command, DB2 get dbm config grep for service name parameter. And here it actually doesn't give us the value. It actually gives us this li- literal, and this particular name is actually should be have an entry in your etc services file. So let's go to that particular file and grab for whatever is here. So let's grab for that here, and now you can see the port that we got is 25010. Now let's verify if that port is really listening using netstat minus an command. So I'm saying netstat minus an grab 25010, and you can see that particular port is listening. So let me repeat what I've done. So using the get dbm config, I looked at what is the value of service name. So I got a value here, and that particular value is not actual port value. The port value is mentioned in etc services. So I actually looked for that particular value in etc services. I got that 25010, and I wanted to really verify if that particular port is open and listening, and yes, it is listening. You can see netstat minus a and grab for that particular port, this particular port, which is for db2c db2p debit P, and that is listening. So that looks good. So I'm going to capture this particular port as well. Let me capture this here in a notepad. So that's the second part. And we need the database name. So the database name we can get using db2 list db directory or db2 list database directory. Both is exactly same. So here we got two databases, test and first 1 to 3. We are going to connect to the first 1 to 3. So I'm going to capture that here. So we got the host name, we got the port using get dbm config service name, and then we looked at the etc services, look for the port, and then we got that particular port. So that's all, and we got the database name using db2 list db directory. That all looks good. Now it's time to install the db2 client. So now we are going to go to the remote server. So this is where the database is running. So now let's go to the remote server, and on the remote server let's run the command db2 ls. This is the first command that we are going to run. I think that session is gone. Let me open the session to that server, and let me actually maximize this a little bit, and let me put it in the middle. So let me clear this. And the first command that I'm going to run is db2 ls. And you can see this particular command not found. What it means is like this particular command says that this particular, we don't have any db2 product on this. If there was any db2 product, then this particular command would give us the output of what that product is, what is the fixed spec level when that particular product is installed. The db2 ls command not found indicates that there is no db2 installed on this particular machine. So we are going to install the db2 client on this particular machine. So I've already downloaded that particular software. So let's go to that particular directory. And here you can see we got this 11.12.1.1 Linux client. This is the client software. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to untar that particular software to this DBE directory. So let me go and untar that particular software. Now that particular software is not really big, so it's not going to take so much time. So give it a few seconds. That's done. Now if I go to that particular directory, you will be able to find that there is automatically a directory got created called client. And if I go to that particular directory, under that particular directory, you will find the db2 prerequisite check and db2 install. So that looks good. So we got these two packages. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to use this db2 prerequisite check to verify if the prerequisite checks are met or not. So let's take that and run. So I'm saying -c. What is -c here? -c is for the client instance and -v for the version. So I'm checking whether 12.1.1 does this operating system matches for 12.1.1, and yes means print at the screen. So let's run this, and you can see accept this for this 32-bit library. This we are doing this on RHEL 9.4 64-bit, and since we are doing this on a 64-bit, there is a missing 32-bit package, and I'm going to ignore that particular warning. So now we are going to use the db2 install to install the db2 software. So let's run the db2 install. Now here first we need to accept the license, and as I mentioned, the default directory, by default this particular directory it has chosen, and if you don't want this directory you have to say no and you have to give a different directory. But I'm going to stick to default directory and I'm going to say yes, and then it actually looked for that particular package once again and it missed, and it has got some, I do not know, 28 steps to be done. So the installation has been started. The setting db2 library path, this is the longest step in this particular client installation. Give it a few seconds for this particular step to complete, and it should not take much time. It says and that's completed, and the execution completed successfully, which means that everything is good. And if you want to see what exactly happened, if everything is looking good, you can always take a look at that particular log that is mentioned here, and here you can see success, 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 which means everything is installed successfully. So that looks good. Now what we are, so the first part is done, so the installation is been done. And remember, I ran one command in the beginning, and that particular command was db2ls. So when I ran that particular command in the beginning, I said command, we got the output command not found. But now if I run the command, you can see we got this particular where the db2 software is installed, what is the level of the software when it is installed, etc, etc. So the db2ls command is giving us the output, which means the client has been installed on this particular machine. So that is good. Now the second part, once the client has been installed, we will go to that location. Let me run that particular command once again. And if I go to that particular directory, let me close this actually, because I'm going to do this in the other directory. So let me go to that directory where that db2 got installed. And if I show you here under this, you will find a directory called instance. So if I go to that directory called instance, and if I look for, so now I'm under where the db2 got installed. So the main directory, under that I went to instance directory, and under that if I say ls-l, look for db2 icreate, you will find an utility called db2 icreate. This particular command is what we are going to create our instance. So to create our instance, we are going to use the command called, let me type this, and here it says db2 icreate -s client and the name of the instance. So the name of the instance will be dbc. Remember, the name of our instance will become the dbc. So let's run that and give it a few seconds for that particular command to complete. So right now it is creating an instance, and that got completed. So we have now a instance called dbc. So now if I go to the client instance dbc, let me go there, and if I run db2 licm -l, so license, and you can see it's a data server client instance. It is a data server client version 12.1. So that looks good. So we have successfully installed a db2 data server client product, and we have also created an instance, and that is a client instance. So that looks good. So at this moment we have completed what we have completed. We have installed the software, we have created the client instance. Now we are at the step where we are going to catalog the node, catalog the database, and connect. Now catalog the node, let me show you the commands once again. To catalog the node, we'll say catalog tcp ip node, whatever name, remote, either ip address or host name, and the port number. So let me show you that command once again. So before I run that particular command, let's actually see whether we have any nodes in our system using list node directory, and here node directory cannot be found, which means there is no node on our machine. And let's verify if there is any database which are present on our system. The database directory cannot be found. So neither there is a node directory, neither there is a database directory. Now what we are going to do, we are going to catalog the TCP IP node. So let me take this particular command, and before I press the enter, let me explain this. So catalog TCP IP node, this is your choice, whatever node name you want to give. This is either the IP address or the server name of the server where the database is running, and this is the port of that db2 instance on that particular server. So let's run this, and that's done. And now let's take the another command, db2 catalog database, and here this is the name of the database under this particular server, under this particular instance, and this is the port, the TCP IP node we gave here. So whatever we gave here, we have to give exactly same here. So that's done. And now now what we need to do, we will do the db2 terminate to refresh the cache. And then if I now run exactly same command, let me actually do one thing. Let me connect to the same server once again, because otherwise the output will scroll here and there. If I run the exactly same command, db2 list node directory, here you can see that, okay, I should have connected as a dbc user because the instance is running as dbc. And here you can see that we got one node called RHEL9 pointing to server db1 25010 is the port. So that is whatever we gave here. So catalog node RHEL9, remote is db1, server is 25010, and looks exactly same. So RHEL9, server is db1 25010. And if I run here, we got node directory cannot be found, but we got the node now. And if I run the list db directory, Here, then we should be able to get one entry, which is first 1 to 3, which is pointing to RHEL 9. So here, this particular, and this remote indicates that this is not a database. List DB directory indicates that this is not a database which is present on this machine. It is a remote database. Now we are at this step where we are ready to connect to that particular database. So let's connect to that database. And to connect to that particular database, we'll say DB2 connect to, let me take this here, and DB2 connect to the name of the database, and this is the name of the alias actually, not the name of the database. User, whoever the user that wants to connect using the password. Now, if you don't want to give the password here, you can actually you can just say user. I'm going to show you that one in a minute. So if you see that we have successfully connected to database first 1 to 3. Now, actually, let me do something. Actually, I forgot to show you something. Let me connect reset. The connect reset means you are disconnecting from the database. And what I'm going to do before actually connecting to the database, let me actually show you get connection state command. And here you can see connectable and unconnected. And now let me connect to, so which means that I'm not connected to any database. And if now I'm going to take this particular command and I'm going to say DB to get connection state again. And here you can see the difference. Here it said unconnected. Then I use the DB2 connect command to connect to the database, and now I'm connected, and it shows that I'm connected to the database called first123, which is hosted on DB1 and its port is 25010. So it gives me complete information of that particular database. Now, this particular connection is actually coming from this DBC or DB2. So let's actually verify here using DB2 list application. Is it really that connection? So let's verify that. And you can see that, let me actually make it big and let me clear the screen and let me put it here. And you can see there is a local connection. Let me actually terminate this local connection. And let me actually say list applications. And you can see there is one connection which is coming from 102, which is actually a IP of server DB2. And if you want to really check that, you can actually verify that here. So if I say clear, and if I say ifconfig, and if I say grep for inet, you should be able to see IP of 102, 192.168.1.102, and that's the same IP here. So we have connected from a remote machine from the remote server to the database machine. So that looks good. Now, if you still can't believe me, let me actually show you something. Let me connect to that particular database on the remote local server. So let me connect to the database and let me run the simple query called select star from amp. So you can see there is only one record. Now let me go to that remote server. And where did I connect? Actually, not here. So let me, yeah, I don't want to get confused. So here is what I've connected, and I can show it to you. DB2 get connection state. I should have that particular command, and you can see we have connected to that particular database server. So here I'll keep it here. So we can see that from DB2 we are connected to DB1. So here also we can see, and what I'm going to do, there is only one record in that particular database. I'm going to insert the second employee called water. So currently the rock is there. Let me insert a second employee called water in our organization. That completed, and now let me select star from amp, and we can see that we got the first employee called rock and the second employee called water, and this particular record that we inserted is from the remote server, which means that we have successfully established the connectivity from the remote. And if you are the developer, or if you are the application team, or if this was some application, then they can establish the connectivity to the DB2 database from the remote server. So this was the tutorial on how to install the DB2 12.1 client on RHEL 9.4, and we downloaded the software, we installed the software, we created the client instance, we cataloged the node, we cataloged the database, and we connected to the database, and we did some insert, update, insert, etc. activity. I hope this particular tutorial was useful. In this particular tutorial, we learned how to install IBM DB2 12.1 client on RHEL 9.4. And again, I would like to say, or I would like to request, if you do like the video that I'm uploading, if you do like the content that I'm uploading on my channel, do hit the like button, do hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and see you in next tutorial. Till then, bye bye.